Is that right? Is that right?
I don't
No. Who has taken 6 by 59? Is that the way you see main function? Okay, that main function is too restrictive. The main function this way is it does not accept additional information. That's not the way we typically write main function. The way you typically write main function is the way I write at the top. What does this mean? So I simply say, okay, I put it into comma. Do not use this anymore. What's the main function I write in the top? The main function can accept additional information. It will also tell you whether this program succeed or fail. What's additional information? For example, when you type GCC minus .o minus, let's say my program .c minus O, my program. GCC is a program. You are giving GCC additional information, right? We have done that before, right? Similarly, when you write, I give you another example. The GDB my program. GDB is a program and gives GDB additional information. Right? I assume everybody knows that. If you are not familiar with GDB, you really need to learn GDB. And it's a well-grind, like match, leaks, check, equal to yes, and so on. Those are additional information. You give a program additional information. So how do these programs handle additional information? That's what we do here. Whenever you write a program in C, you use GCC to compile and link it to executable. By using ARGC and ARGV, you tell the terminal this program may, well not may, actually always receive additional information. So the way main is a function, right? So main takes arguments. It takes 2 arguments. The first argument is an integer. The second argument is an array of strings. So we have seen character star a few times. So character star means string. So this means ARGV is an array of strings. The name of the first argument is always ARGC, don't change it. The second argument is always ARGV. ARG means argument, C means count, V means value. ARG means argument, C means count, V means value. Do not change them. That's not a place where you want to show your creativity. Everybody use ARGC, ARGV. So what is ARGC? When you run your program, the terminal will automatically calculate how many arguments are given to your program. So let's go back to this example. GCC is a program. That's the very first argument. Anything that's separated by space or tab, you can have a multiple space, for example. Let's say I add another space. This will be one argument. This will be another argument. Then all the space in between is equivalent to one space. This will be another argument. So in the first case, GCC has one argument, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Anything that's separated by space is argument. The terminal will automatically give you the value of ARGC. Then ARGV is an array of string. So in this case, if I look at GCC, so this is one string, this is another string, this is another string. it will separate them for you. So what does this program do? This program prints how many arguments are there. And it prints one argument at a time, each string at a time. And then the program say X is success. Let me run this program so you get a big feeling what the program does. So I say GCC minus, and today's 13. Let's call it my program. If I say my program without anything else, there's only one argument, the name of the program. That's always, the number of arguments is always 1 or higher. That's the name of the program. If I give something else, let's say today is Thursday, and I add some space here, 13, 2014. So now it counts. There are 7 arguments. The first one is the name of the program, and the others are strings. Today is Thursday, February 13, 2014. As I said, one space and more space are the same thing. As you can see, that you separate Thursday and February by many spaces, but terminal was separated by just as one space. Okay. Any questions so far? No questions. Great. What's X is success? First, in some books, they tell you to return 0 or 1. That's a mistake. You should use symbols because in some systems, success is defined as 0. In some other systems, success is defined as 1. So if you hard code constant, you increase the chance of mistakes. Actually, on Tuesday, how many of you find the ASCII table useful? Okay, you made a mistake. You should not find the ASCII table useful. Do you know why? How do you use ASCII table? How do you use ASCII table on the exam?
I think I added to one of the letters to the lowercase.
Can you tell me the code? Anybody remembers? Who raised a hand earlier? Nobody. Do you use ASCII table in the exam? How do you use the ASCII table?
I believe it was adding 32 to a ASCII character deemed to be in a...
So you have a character equal to 32, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Why you should not do that? Does anybody know? You want to do up to lowercase or uppercase?
To lowercase.
Lowercase. So this is what you should do. Okay. You'll say if a character is greater than A, what's the value of A? I don't care. Compiler will do that for me. The value of A is 65. Is that right? Does anybody remember? Okay. Cool. So CH is an uppercase letter. That's how you test whether it's uppercase or lowercase. I know many of you will do the following. Okay. You write equal to 65, right? 65, so this will be 90, I think. Did anybody write this way? You know what's wrong with that? Did anybody write this way? Only one person? Two? Many of you. Don't do that again, please. Do you know why? Alright, so you write this program. For some reason you put 89. How easy for you to find this bug? Do you know Z is 90? Do you remember Z is 90? Are you sure? No. You'll forget. You will forget. If you write 89, how many of you will be able to find this bug quickly? You think you will? No. You think you will find this bug very quickly? No. You will forget Z is 89. Z is 90. Do you think this line is easier to detect bug or this line? Which line is easier to detect bug?
The first line.
The first one. I've seen many cases. Students use the second one and they put 89 or 90, 81. They misread the table for whatever reason. And it's very, very hard to debug. I'm telling you how to save time in writing your programs. Okay, so you want to convert to lowercase, right? So you should say ch is ch minus a, not yet done yet, plus a. So the ch is uppercase a, the first one ch minus uppercase a will give you 0, right? Are you with me? Are you with me? If the ch is b, uppercase b, ch minus capital letter a, you get 1, right? Now you add what's lowercase a. That makes lowercase. Many of you will probably do this, as you just told me. Did you do that? Okay. Now, imagine you have to use some imagination. You write 31. Do you think it's very easy for you to find that bug? Come on. No. Do you think it's very easy to find the bug? You need to write 32, not 31. Yes? Easy to find a bug or hard? It's hard to find a bug. Trust me.
It'd be hard for somebody following behind you to find that bug, especially. Like if I were to write the program and then somebody else were to try and to troubleshoot the problem.
Yes.
Somebody coming behind me working on that, it would be nearly impossible to find that bug.
Yes. Because what does 31 mean? It's very hard to find that bug. For those people, they write 32. They will have a lot of time finding that bug. Many of you also will try to do this. I have seen it. I've seen many times. You probably know what I'm going to do. Don't laugh. I've seen that many times. I've seen many students, actually in the past we have a program that cover uppercase to lowercase, lowercase to uppercase, and students write 52 if statements. Are there bugs in this program? Is it obvious? Is it obvious? If you have 52 of them, is it obvious? No. So, that's why many students work very, very hard and get 0 in the assignment. Right? So what's wrong with, which part is wrong? Can you tell right away? Can you tell right away?
Kind of, because there's only like.
Okay, so you want me to copy 52 times?
No.
Okay, but do you get my point? Every time you copy paste code, you increase the chance of mistake. Those mistakes are very, very hard to find. That's the difference between somebody spent 5 hours for the assignment and somebody spent 30 hours for the assignment. Okay? Not only those bugs are hard to find, your program behavior is very difficult to predict because sometimes it is right, sometimes it's wrong. That makes your life very difficult. So don't do this, okay? For those people not coming to a class today, they are making a gigantic mistake. Okay, so don't do that. There's a very simple rule of thumb. You should not have a mysterious constant in your program. What's 89? What does that mean? What's 31? Is 31 because it's 2 power of 5? I should write exp 2, 5 minus 1. What does 31 mean? It's very difficult to understand. So, don't do that. Okay, does this make sense? Did anybody write anything like this in the exam? Nobody. That's okay. You learned something today. Do you? So if we give the same question again, if you give me constant again, should I take points out? Yes. Because I want you to learn things in the right way. Okay. So do not return 0 or minus 1 or 1. Use symbols. Because how many of you know success is 0 or 1 or minus 1? How many of you know that?
1.
But when you see success, do you know it means success?
Yes.
Right? Okay. So do not use mysterious constant. Trust me, that's an invitation to hours and hours and hours of debugging. If you like to spend 40 hours for your assignment, please use constant without explaining why. Okay? If you love the assignment, you want to spend just forever debugging your program, use constant. Otherwise, use symbols. If you don't want to spend the entire weekend working on assignment, you use symbols. Okay. So let me come back to here. The terminal will automatically separate the arguments. When you write a program that requires some arguments, very often, maybe let me do something else. Let's say GCC. When you write GCC without anything else, GCC says, I don't know what to do. I need some input. Otherwise, I don't know what to do. How does GCC do that? GCC will do something like the following. If ARGC is less than 2, if you don't give any additional information, no argument, you print an error message and the program stops. So this is basically what GCC does. It counts the number of arguments, then return exit failure. Why are very few people taking notes? Those people don't take notes, probably want to take a class again. Yes, please.
Why is it less than 2? Why wouldn't it just be less than 1?
Because ARGC is always at least 1. The program itself counts as 1.
Okay.
So if you come back here, look at this program. The program itself counts as 1. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Is it better to say less than 2 or equal to 1? Like, is there any
No, there's no real, because ARGC is always at least 1. So less than 2 means it is 1.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Why is it less than 2 then it fails?
Because in this program, I want to say you need to give me something additional.
Okay.
I'm simulating what GCC would do. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what's exit failure and exit success? Many of you may not be aware, majority computer programs are not run by human. Overwhelming majority of computer programs are run by other computer programs. That's reality. So when a program runs another program, the second program has to say, have I accomplished something I intend to do? In this case, if you cannot accomplish something the program intends to do, this program has to tell the coding program, this fails. Let me give you an example. Suppose this program now I start talking about file operation. Suppose you want to count the number of a character A in a file. Then you will write something like the following. File is a file pointer. The second argument is the name of the file. The second argument, as you should know clearly, argument index starts from 0. So 1 means the second argument if you gave index 1. Maybe let me explain this a bit more. So earlier I said let me go through the arguments print one by one. So index starts from 0. That's how I print it here, right? This will be ARGV1. It will be ARGV0. This will be ARGV0. This will be ARGV1. This will be ARGV2, and so on. Because index always starts from 0. So suppose I want to count the number of A in a file. I need the name of the file. And the name of the file is given by the second argument. If you do not check, your program will crash here because there is no second argument. Before you use ARGV1, you should always check ARGC, whether ARGC is at least 2. Any question about this? fopen opens a file that is stored on your hard drive. After I open the file, I can read it. So I can say file not reach the end of the file. This means while I have not reached the end of the file, I am going to read. I will explain this. I read one character from the file. If this character is kept, let me do lowercase a. So I'm going to have the counter equal to 0. I'm going to read one character from a file and check out whether that character is lowercase a. If this lowercase a counter increment, don't forget to initialize a counter. My observation is uninitialized variable is #1 mistake among students, and I don't know why. Because I said so many times. I talk about FGTC in a moment. Then I can say file so I say how many times this A shows up in the file. Yes?
Why is ch integer?
I'll talk about that in a moment. Okay. So let me explain what I'm doing here. I open a file. The file name is given by the second argument. I open the file for read. So this means I'm opening the file to read. If you want to open the file to write, change R to W. If you want to open the file to write, but you want to write at the very end of the file, if you don't want to erase the file, you change it to A. So means write. This will erase the file if it already exists. Okay, to the end of the file. If the file already exists, A will append at the end. If the file does not exist, you basically create a new file. Okay. Then FEOF is the file we have not reached the end of the file. Let me show you what fopen does. This is called a manual page. In the old days, people called man page because take the first 3 letters. I hope that doesn't offend anybody interpret as gender. It's just manual. People were lazy at that time. So try to make it short. This is your dictionary. I will teach you how to read dictionary a few times, but I'm not going to read dictionary in class because that doesn't make sense. If I just read dictionary, everybody will fall into sleep very quickly. First, you need to include this header file. If you don't include this header file, you get compiler warning. Then fopen will return a file pointer. The first argument is a path. Basically, it's the name of the file. But if the file is not in the current directory, you can give it a name. You can give a path. What's a path? So we talked about this pwd command before, right? So that tells you the path. The path is /home/my name and /lecture. If you want to open the file in a different directory, you can say, for example, you can say this is another path. So give the path to your program. And the second argument is the mode. So if you look down, the mode point to a string, and then you can have R plus, read and write, W, A, and so on. It also tells you once you open the file, is at the beginning of the file or at the end of the file. If you open the file, you put it at the beginning of the file. I'll talk about the meaning of a string in a moment. If you put A, it will be at the end of the file. So what is a string? You'll see this word quite a few times throughout the semester. Let me pause here. Any questions so far? Really? Nobody has any question? Everything makes perfect sense, right? Is that right? Everything makes perfect sense. Absolutely. There's no doubt whatsoever. Yes, please.
How does reading and writing at the same time work? If I type R plus, right, I can read and write at the same time. How does it work? I mean,
You can, because you assume the file may have something to read.
okay.
You may read something and you modify something.
Okay, but you don't delay it right away.
I'll talk about file position in a moment.
Okay.
You may read a few, then you move to some part in the file and then write. Yes, go ahead.
The W plus file is created if it does not exist, otherwise it is truncated.
It's erased, basically.
I mean, it's erased?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, let me explain what string means. In Linux, a file is a string. What does that mean? It means you consider a file as a string of characters. When you open a file, depends on if the main page says it's at the beginning or at the end. If it's at the beginning, there is a marker. You don't need to know, but you can just use it. The operating system takes care of it. But if it's at the beginning, there's a marker at the beginning. If it says at the end, there's a marker at the end. Every time the program reads something, the marker moves. So imagine this is basically a stream, like a river. You just keep moving. Every time you read something, the marker moves to next. Every time you read something, the marker moves next. You may go back, but only if your program explicitly say, I want to go back. Usually you don't. You just keep moving forward. You keep reading. So how do we read character? F, G, E, T, C will read one character. I talk about why it is an integer, not a character in a moment. So if you call F, G, E, T, C once, you will go to the next character. You call it again, it goes to the next character. It calls again, it goes to the next character. It keeps going until you reach the end of the file. Yes.
So does FGC modify the pointer that you send to it?
It modifies the marker. It doesn't modify the file.
Okay.
Okay. Then there is a marker. Keep moving. It marks where you are, the position, and this file. So going back to your question, read and write. You may read a few places, a few characters, then you say, I want to start writing from here. from the place where the marker is. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Does that answer your question? Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Another question, is there a way of finding out where the marker currently is?
Yes. It's called a F-tail. Find the location of the marker, and F-seek set the location of the marker.
Both of them return integers, right?
Excuse me?
Both of them return integers.
I don't remember it. I think F-tail returns long. Let me check. Okay, so yeah, F-tail returns long. So F-seek, let me read the second part first. F-tail function returns the current value of the file position indicator. So you give the file pointer, so that's called a string. That's why files are modeled as string, like string of river. That's the reason it's called, the argument is called string. F-tail tells you where it is relative to the beginning of the file. Does that answer your question? And F-seek, S-E-E-K, will say, I want to move to a particular place in the file. You have three arguments. The first argument is the file pointer. The second argument is the distance. It's called offset. Then the third argument says you want to go from the beginning, current place, or from the end of the file. So as you can see, here you have the third argument can be SEK, current, or end. The offset relative to the beginning, the current, or the end of the file. If it's a seed, if that's F-seek says I want to go to the end of a file, or I want to go to the beginning of a file, if you can, F-seek will tell you it's successful. It returns, and a successful call will clear end of file indicator and also return. So if you go down, as I said, I teach you how to read the document. You need to read, upon successful F-seek returns 0. If it's failed, it returns -1. Some of you have learned using rewind. You should not use rewind. If somebody tells you how to use rewind, you should forget it. Why? Because rewind doesn't tell you it fails. Rewind basically means you want to go to the beginning of a file, but in many cases you cannot. In some systems, you can particularly if it's security related, For example, that's a security log. You can only write what happens now. You can never go back and try to modify it for an obvious reason. If you work on a system that's security related, and you say, let me go back to the beginning of the file, you will fail. Your program will fail. And rewind doesn't tell you your program fails. fseek will tell you, you say, I want to go to the beginning of the file, fseek will tell you the system does not allow you to do that. So you should not use rewind, you should use fseek. If you use rewind, in future assignment, I'm going to scream at you. Okay, yes.
Can you explain the parameters for fseek?
Okay, so fseek has three arguments. The first argument is a file pointer. The second argument is the distance. And third argument is the reference of the distance.
So starting from
Depends on you use seek set, seek current, or seek end. Let's say you put offset, the second argument, as 10. Okay? You use seek set. That means I want to move to 10 characters from the very beginning of the file. If you use seek set. If your third argument is seek current, you mean I want to jump 10 characters from the current location. Does that answer your question? Okay, so don't use rewind. I already told you. Yes.
So if your file was all characters, your offset, and you wanted to go 10 characters from where you were, your offset would just be 10 times the size of character.
Yes.
Okay.
the offset can be negative, right?
I think so. I never tried that. If you want to go back, yes. Why don't try it and tell us? Okay. I don't remember I tried to use negative. I think so, but why don't find out? Thank you. Okay, so you can move around in your file. You use fseek and you can tell where you are. Use ftail. Does that answer your question? Okay. So now next I'm going to explain.
Professor,
Yes.
is there a default value for third argument?
No, there's no default variable for third
So
argument.
you have to
You have to give. C does not have a constant default argument. Default variable. C probably does. C does not. So let me explain f-get-c and why it's integer. Okay. So f-get-c returns the next character from the string and return as unsigned character. You read one character, but treat it as an unsigned character. If you reach the end of a file, you'll return a special symbol, all uppercase, end of a file. EOF means end of file. End of file, in Linux, is defined as -1. And it is not an unsigned character. Unsigned character cannot be negative. That's the reason it has to be integer. Yes?
What's the difference between FEOF and EOF?
EOF is a character. Uppercase EOF is a character. FEOF is a function call. So, okay, so let me show you how to do this. Or you can say, if ch is EOF, EOF is not a character, it's an integer. It's something inside the file. It's a special character in the file. You have to read it from the file. FEOF is a function call. You give an argument, a function pointer, a file pointer. Does that answer your question? So now as you can see, if I need to check argument count, because without checking, this line will fail. Now I actually need to check again here. So ARTC, if ARTC is 2 or more, I at least have a file name. I have I have the name of the file. That doesn't mean I can read the file. Maybe the name you give me doesn't exist. That file doesn't exist. If the file doesn't exist, I cannot read it. In that case, FPTR will be null. That means fopen failed.
Shouldn't you do, wait. If fopen fails, why doesn't give you error in the first place? I mean, f pointer equals to fopen, that
Which
line.
error?
You mean if the file doesn't exist, shouldn't the fopen give you the error or give you?
Fopen gives me error in the format of setting FPTR to null. FPTR is null means fopen fails.
Okay.
So let me show you. So if you scroll down here to the return value, if you see, if it's successful, it returns a file pointer. Otherwise, it returns null. That's the way you know fopen has failed. Fopen can fail in many ways. One is simply the file doesn't exist. Yes.
What is error no? ERRNO?
That's a variable tells you why it fails. When something fails, the file pointer will return null. Then error number, there's a table says that in what reason, for what reason it fails. And error number is what the index in the table. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Yes, you have a question. You should always check whether fopen fails before you use it. You should always check. Because if it fails, you want to read it, of course it doesn't work. I said fopen can fail because the file doesn't exist. But fopen can fail even if the file exists, but you have no read permission. You may have the experience setting a file to be hidden, invisible, cannot read. Right? So let me explain. When we type ls minus L means long. You'll see this. Does everybody know what this means? Does anybody know what this means? Yes?
It's the permissions for root and users. Right?
The permissions for the file.
Right. Yeah.
The first letter indicates whether it is a directory. Why is nobody taking note? Why do I need to remind you? I know you don't want me to treat you as elementary school students, so don't behave like elementary school students. Take notes. I want you to learn this material.
Yeah,
Yes.
First, letter you mean the minus, that's what makes
Let me show you. The first letter says whether it's a directory or not. It's a directory, or some people call it folders. It's a file or it is a folder. That's the first letter. Okay, any questions about this? Okay. The other three letters, the next three letters says the permission for the owner of the file. How do you know the owner? I am the owner. This column specifies the owner of the file. So as the owner, R means read permission, W means write permission, X means execution permission. If it is a directory, you need execution permission so that you can list the directory. If it's a file, execution permission means it can be treated as a program. So let me go to this. Look at this file. This is a program I created using GCC a few minutes ago. The first letter is dash, means it's not a directory or it's not a folder. The next three letters says, I as the owner, I have read permission, I have write permission, and I can execute this program. X means I can execute this program. The next three letters are called group permission. In this case, I have only one group, it's myself. So this column means group. You can create a group of several people. For example, you can create a group of you and your partners. They belong to the same group. In that case, you can create a group of your project partners and then give them the permission. So in this case, you can give them read permission or write permission. If it's a program, you can give them execution permission. Yes, please.
The group permissions work when they're all users in the same system?
The users in the same system belong to the same group. Okay, you must want to know what is a group. Group is set up in this file, etc group. Oh, I should say more. Currently, I don't have any group, so these are all default group. I have not set up any particular group myself. But that is the file. You can go to this. You need the root privilege. Oh, sorry. This is a place where the group is set up. etc group. As you say, you need group. You need root privilege. And you want to run this, you need to do sudo. So you can say sudo, and then let's say you use Emacs. Without sudo, you are not allowed to change because you are not setting the root privilege. Yes?
On the Linux computers, is there any way to get permission to do sudo? Because you can't do it at all.
On which computer?
The lab computers.
No, you cannot do sudo. Does that make sense? You don't own a computer.
No, yeah, it makes sense.
So, sorry. You can only do sudo for the computers you own. So this is how you can create groups. Yes, please.
If you do sudo, is that like, is it necessary, or can you just do su like dash and then type it all in?
No,
Do
you have to do sudo because this file. Okay, maybe let me show you. The group. Actually, yeah. Do you see that? I am not the owner. The file is owned by root.
Yeah.
And the root has read permission and write permission, and I don't. So if I want to modify it, I have to become root. And sudo does that.
Well, doesn't su change you into root? It'll ask you for your password as root.
You have to set yourself as allowed to be root.
Yeah.
Okay. But if I don't use sudo, I'm not, because that doesn't mean I intend to become root.
Yeah.
Yes.
In this case, even root cannot execute it if it was an
It's not executable. This is not a program. This is a text file.
No, if it was a program and there's no X over there, then even the root cannot execute.
That's correct. If there's no X, even root cannot execute because it's not a program. This is the case. It's a text file. So let me go back to lecture. You can set up a group. Then the other three letters mean the permission for everybody on this computer. You should, in general, you should not give them write permission or execution permission because how do you know? Unless this computer is yours, otherwise, if you are using school computer, there are hundreds of students over there, so you should not allow them to do anything. One way to change the permission is the command change mode. Let's say I want to change mode. So suppose, let's say today's lecture, this is my lecture today, the example I give today. Currently is readable by everybody on this computer. So if you do that on your computer or on the school computer, everybody can read it. Right? This means everybody can read it. So I want to change that so that nobody can read it. I will change it to 60, change mode 600 6. The first character is read, that means the number is 4. The second character is write, that means the number is 2. So 6 means read or write. I change it to read or write by myself, and the other people I make 0, so they are not allowed to read or write. If I do this again, I move up, you will see I have changed this to be read and write by myself only. Nobody in my group can read or write, and nobody else in this computer can read or write. So I use the command change mode.
So different integer has different meaning, you mean?
Yes. The first digit means the permission for yourself. The second digit means the permission for the group. The third digit means the permission for everybody on this computer. 0 means you do not allow given any permission. Yes.
Can anybody use CHMOD?
Only if you are the owner of that file. If you are not the owner of the file, you say I want to do CHMOD, that doesn't work for obvious reasons, right? Otherwise you can give yourself permission for a file you do not own. Yes.
So if you want to just take it away, you just subtract. Like you don't want to have them have permission, right?
You can use symbols, but this is how I usually do it. There's another way to do it. There are other ways to do it, but this is how I usually do it.
What does 6 mean?
6, the first digit means the permission for yourself.
Yeah.
R is 4. R is 4. W is 2. X is 1. So 6 means 4 plus 2. That means read and write. 0 means no permission. Yes?
If you had done chmod 000, would you,
Then you cannot read or write either.
so could you change it back?
You can change it back if you are the owner. Yes.
Okay.
So let me show you since you asked. So I want to save this file. Permission denied. Okay? Does that answer the question? I want to change it back. Now I can see it. Okay. So that's another reason why fopen may fail. The file exists, but you have no permission. Then I have explained FEOF, I explained capital letter EOF. I explained what is character, because EOF is -1. And I can count. After I finish the work, here I will say F close. If you open a file successfully and you do your work, later on you need to say F close. Otherwise, you have memory leak, because F open will allocate memory. You do not know, but F open will allocate memory. F close will release the memory. So sometimes you may have a situation where you say, I never call malloc, why do I have a memory leak? Because you call F open without F close. Some people will do this. They put F close, they said, okay, professor says F open has to follow F close. Should I put F close here? No, because F open fails. If F1 fails, there's nothing to close. Any more questions?
So it will give you warning, or
There's no warning. It just says FPTR is null.
just not professional, right?
Excuse me?
It's just not professional.
What do you mean not professional?
You say it's not warning or even error, so it doesn't matter if you put that way.
Which way?
The F close. Even
No, your
if,
program will crash there.
okay.
Because F open fails, there's nothing to close. So F close inside the parenthesis bracket will make your program crash, because there's nothing to close. Does that make sense?
When you do the malloc, even if the pointer is null, it didn't do the malloc, but in the function you do free the malloc, it doesn't crash.
True, but fclose is different. Fclose does other things as well.
Okay.
Okay? Fclose does more than free. Anything else? Okay. Now after you open the file, this one allows you to read one character at a time. What happens if I want to write a whole line, read the whole line? There's another command called fgets. So I already showed you a few times how to read a document. You need to scroll down. Let me read it for you and see whether you have any question. So fgets has 3 arguments. The first is the address where you want to store the data. You must allocate enough space. If you don't have enough space, you'll have a problem. The second says what's the length you want to read. You want to read 5 characters, you want to read 20 characters, you want to read 100 characters. You give a length. The third is the file pointer. And you will return if it reads successfully or it fails. I will explain that in a moment. First, let me explain how to read this. As I said, I will help you read this a few times, and later on you need to know how to read this. So fgts read at most 1 less than the size of the character. So the size is given in the second argument, but fread will read 1 less than the size. Does anybody know why 1 less than the size? Excuse me? The ending character /0. Because if your space given by the first one, let's say it has 80 characters, it can only hold 79 characters plus the /0 ending character. So that's the reason you'll be 1 less. For a string inside a file, and stored into a buffer pointed by S. S is a pointer for the memory you can store data. You will stop in several scenarios. One is you reach the end of the file. There's nothing more to read. If the file has only 20 characters left, you want to read 80, you will not get 80 because you have reached the end of the file. Or it will stop if you reach the line, a new line. If the file has multiple lines and you want to read, let's say the file has, let me give you an example. In this case, I will show the column number. So I'm here at line 39 and column 9. And there's nothing, there's a new line character here. You don't see it, but there's a new line character because if I try to move next, you will go to the next line. If I want to read 80 characters, you will only read up to the new line character. Means the line is not very long. fgts will stop if you read the new line character. And you will store the new line character in your buffer. It is also stored in the buffer. So this is why it's 1 less, because you will put a terminating character inside the buffer. So let me give you an example. Suppose I fopen succeed because I check fopen fail. I can say, I can have a buffer. Let me create a let's say 80. So I allocate the buffer. Obviously later on I should allocate outside. I don't want to allocate every single time in the loop. Obviously if you allocate, you should release later, right? That should not surprise you. Malloc should follow by free. And here I can say, this, I can say fgts That's how I read it. So let's continue and read the return value. If FGTS cannot read anything anymore, you return null. So you can say the following, you say if has read something. If FGTS cannot read anything, for example, your hard drive just crashed. There's nothing for your program to read. Then FGTS will fail. Or you reach the end of a file, FGTS will return null. If it's not null, that means you have read something. FGTS does not stop at space. So if you have a multiple lines, a multiple space in the line, it does not stop. If you read this, it does not stop at space. So here, let's say I want to check whether this line contains a particular word. Then I can say if you have learned str, right? Let's say whether this line contains Purdue. Yes?
Yeah, does this also treat multiple spaces as just one space?
No. You will read, if you have multiple space in that line, FGTS will read space by space. It does not condense that space. Good question.
I'm sorry, what was his question?
His question is, does FGTS, if a line has many space together, does FGTS compress them into one space? The answer is no. If a many spaces in a line, FGTS will read space by space by space from the file.
So you can store the space?
Inside buffer.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you use if gets for standard instruction?
Yes. Okay. So now this is a file name, but you can in C there are 3 special files already open for you. In C, 3 pre-opened file pointers. std in is the keyboard. If you replace this, for example, if you replace this, you can say that means read 1 character from the keyboard. Is that what you're asking? Okay. And why do we have out and STERR? Because out means you want to, it's a typical output. ERR means error message. Sometimes you want to separate them, and the system gives you the option. If you don't intentionally separate them, both of them will go to computer screen. But if you want to separate them, the computer gives you the option.
So how do they work differently, STD out and STD?
For you do redirection, if you do std out, if your program, let's say your program produce some output. If the program to std out, and you save to a file, this will save std out to a file, but it does not save std ARR to a file. It will show up on the screen. And the idea is normal output, you can save it to a file. Error message will still show on the screen. Yes, please.
In that while loop, you're doing, like that first if statement, that's the one I'm looking at. So after you do f get
Sorry, which line?
up, down, that
More.
if statement, yes.
Okay.
So when you do f get s, your marker for the file is automatically moving.
Correct.
So that the while loop will keep going until it reaches the end of the file.
Yes.
So, is there any way to like if I wanted to reference line numbers, is that how I would have to do it? Because when
Okay, line numbers.
or
So
is there a built-in function? for
no,
that?
there's no built-in function for line number. So you can say line number equals 0,
And then put a counter in there.
and then put a counter there, and then say, you may want to do this. Then you can do, because remember we read only 80 characters. If that line has more than 80 characters before the end of a line, you haven't reached the end of a line yet. So I use strchr to detect whether FGTS find the end of a line. Then I increment the line number. Does that make sense to you?
I mean, do you have to do str character and look for that?
Because this line can, here I read only 79 characters each time. If this line is very, very long, I can make the line very long. So
okay.
I can just, do you see the counter at the bottom, 68 is increasing? So if you see that?
Yeah.
In this case, the line has 105 characters, actually it starts from 0. So in this case, if you read 80, you haven't finished the line yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So in this case, this line actually spans two lines on my editor. It's actually a single line. So if you read the first time, you haven't finished the line yet. You need to read again. Does that make sense? Yes.
But if your buffer length is 80 and you have 100 characters, and the 100th is your delimiter that ends the line, aren't you never going to enter that if because you won't even get to there?
Well, I would first read 80. So if I call the first time, this every time I read at most 80 character. So the first time I read, this if statement is not going to trigger because I only read from here up to 80, right?
And then the second time.
And I read the second time, I see the new line character.
And even though it's reading a second time, it's not going to think that it's reading a second line.
It doesn't know it's reading a second line, just know it's reading characters. The line, what does a line mean? A line means there's a new line character. Right? Okay. Yes?
You could also check line by saying f gets c, right? So then would this be faster, would that be faster?
If you do f get c, you only get one character each time.
And you run it to the end of the file.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for example, another way to say it is, let me find out what's the maximum length of a line. Okay. Okay. And then I will say current length is 0. So this is what I'm going to do. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
How about yours?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is how I'm going to do. Okay. If max length less than current length, and I reset, current length to 0. This will find the maximum length of the lines, all the lines in a file. Right? I read one character at a time, one character at a time from a file. If I detect it's a new line character, now I know I have reached the end of the line. Does that make sense so far? And then when that happens, I will see whether the maximum length is less than the current length I've read. And if it is, I will remember the maximum length and reset current length because I'm going to the next line. After I read the new line character, I'm going to the next line. So I reset current length. If it's not new line character, that means I'm not done with the line yet. I'm still reading inside the same line. Then the current length increment. By doing this, you can find the maximum length of all the lines in the file. Does this make sense?
So that would find the length of the longest
Yes.
line in the file.
If you want to know that, you want to know the length of the longest line, you can do that. Now, this one, be careful, this one does not count the /n. If you want to count /n, you will need to do it, you increment again. This will include any questions? If you read this document, I want to mention this because if you read this document, there's GETS, but it says never use GETS because it doesn't specify the maximum length to read. When a program has GTS, well, first, many compilers will simply tell you you have a problem. GTS is a known security bug. Why is there? Because many programs had that a long time ago. It's for backward compatibility. But since you are writing program today, you should not use it. It's called buffer overflow attack. What's buffer overflow attack? Let me give you an example. Let's go to Google. What will you put here? What will you put in that field? Probably a few words, right? This is a non-security attack. People writing programs go to Google and put thousands and thousands of characters there and try to see whether the program will crash in Google. I hope Google doesn't. Okay. They should know this is means you only expect such length. Let's say you say, please enter your name, and you say probably people's name is 30 characters, maybe longer. But if somebody put in a name that's 50,000 characters, what will your program do? This is called buffer overflow attack. Which basically means you expect so much space, so much data, but somebody gives you a lot more. If your program doesn't check, your program have a problem. That was the way the very first computer virus was written in 1988. Because the program expects so much data, and the person that wrote first, actually it's called worm. We can talk about its history a bit later. But the way that first computer attack, worm attack, was looking at the source code of a program and then give a lot more data than expected and hijack the program. How does that succeed? Basically, the program succeeds. If you understand code stack, you understand how that works. So in the code stack, remember there's a place we call return location. And there's some data here, there's some data there. So the person that wrote the first computer worm calculated which byte corresponds to return location and give more data than expected, and as a result overwrite the return location. And when the function returns, the program goes to a different place instead of expected place. And then from there, the computer was hijacked. Since we run out of time, I'll stop here. If you are interested in this, search online, first computer virus. You'll find it.